A bad first half put the Phoenix Suns behind the 8 ball in a matinee contest against the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll break that down on today's episode of Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get podcasts. Thank you so much for making Locked On Suns your first listen. Right away, post-game, after this matinee, 11 a.m. Arizona time game against the Milwaukee Bucks. If you woke up, got ready early to watch it, I have a feeling you might not be super happy, but I appreciate you showing up here, locking in. Hit follow, hit subscribe wherever you're finding us. We're on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. We're always free. The best way to keep us that way is just to hit follow or subscribe. Watch the show, listen to the show every single Monday through Friday. You can also follow along at Locked On PHX Suns on Twitter to catch up, hang out, have some fun over there as well. Today's show, guys, brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. All right. I think some of you will appreciate me being in this new environment. If you're on YouTube and you watch daily, you'll know this is not where I normally record the show, but usually there would be a Giannis jersey behind me, and a lot of you hate when I do that. So in this case, I think it's probably opportune. Just pardon while I'm looking down. I have my computer and my camera elsewhere, but let's dive right into this game. Let's talk about the close of the game, the clutch time performance. That's our moment of the game today. As it often is, the end of these NBA games can decide and determine quite a bit. Specifically, let's lock in. It really kind of lined up because clutch time in the NBA on their stats website is basically the last 5 minutes within 5 points. That's exactly what happened in this game. 4 minutes, 24 seconds. The game is 94-88. So actually clicks into clutch time with this first made shot. You'll remember it. It was Suns... familiar Suns foe, Jay Crowder, making a corner three. Excellent ball movement. I believe it was Jrue Holiday driving into the teeth of the defense. The ball kicks around. The Suns' Booker helps over to the wing to Chris Middleton. The last man open after all the rotations is Jay Crowder. He makes that left corner three. That is directly followed by that very awesome turnaround elbow jumper that Devin Booker hit over Jrue Holiday. Then Jay Crowder hits yet another three-pointer, cuts the lead to 2. They're trading 3s and 2s. Holiday makes a layup. Then we get into basically the meat of the game. Chris Paul gets a couple free throws. Then you have the made shot by Devin Booker with 33 seconds left to tie the game back up. Well, there was a Jrue Holiday 3 in there, a pull-up 3. He was a nightmare to deal with. And then you get the Devin Booker shot with 33 seconds left, just doing what he always does. And it's not enough because Brook Lopez ends up getting a shot in there with an assist from Chris Middleton. And then you play the free throw game and then it's over. I have a few different thoughts on this. One is to go back to the statistics, actually, which is to say that the Suns in this fourth quarter clutch time situation, again, last 5 minutes, 5 or fewer point game, you have a bottom 10 net rating for the Suns this year. So yes, you can look at this on a lot of it. I'm literally watching the highlights as I have this up so that I can make sure I'm getting the plays correct. You have a pull-up 3 where Josh Okogie slips. You have a weird drive from Joe Ingles where he slips it to Holiday. Then you have that classic Book fadeaway jumper that I talked about over Holiday, and 2 of those, one of them was more over Brook Lopez at that 4-minute mark. Then the one I was talking about a moment ago at the elbow was actually the one within a minute. I got those mixed up. So you have all these shots, but the bottom line is that the Suns have not been able to succeed in these moments time and again. And my takeaway from the game, which we'll get to in the next segment as always, is that this matchup is still a bad one. And I just think late in this game, a few things can be true, right? I think it's true even before that crunch time situation. You had the moment where DeAndre Ayton got blocked. You have the moment where then he hesitated the next time he got the ball against Brooke Lopez. And so part of you, I'm sure a lot of you watching at home were looking at it and you're like, man, we really need Kevin Durant. And I don't think that that's a bad one. I'm not going to sit here and do that whole show because we've been talking about Kevin Durant and this game was winnable. I think there's something to be said for that. This is a team where they missed some free throws late. Even Booker getting fouled by Joe Ingles at the very end. I said you play the foul game. The Suns actually got some luck there. They were able to have a chance with Booker getting fouled in the corner late to potentially make things interesting, but even then he misses some free throws. You go 8 of 24 from deep, only 12 turnovers, but just not enough juice. I would actually say, though, that as much as this was the moment of the game and you had Jrue Holiday with the slap down on Booker, turning the ball over late in this one. You also had Chris Paul doing that to Jrue Holiday, but then not being able to execute and make the shot. All those different moments. If you just set yourself up for the beginning, with the beginning of the game for crunch time, and it's not maybe a 6-point game, but you play as well as you did in that third quarter throughout the game, instead of going down 7 after the first quarter and on, you're probably going to win. Booker and Paul just did not play well in that first half. It was Josh Okogie, I believe, had almost 10 points, if not 10 points, and DeAndre Ayton had double digits as well, getting a lot of those mid-range shots to go down. If Paul and Booker just play like themselves in the first half, I think that this game is probably a more comfortable lead by the time you get to the fourth quarter, and then you're not leaving it up to the chemistry, the physicality, and Jrue Holiday going crazy, and that's really what Milwaukee was able to do to beat you. So it was a weird game. These matinee games often are weird. If you remember, the Suns had a really close one of these around this time of year last year against Milwaukee when Landry Shamet hit the game winner. That was a weird one. The Bucks are on this win streak, so they, when the game was within reach late, they smell blood. They don't want to let a winnable game slip either. I think you would probably say Milwaukee needed this one more, quote unquote. The Suns might have been looking a little bit ahead to Durant with that way that first half looked. I don't know what to make of it, but as much as I can point to some mistakes in that fourth quarter, I think that the teams pretty much played to a draw. The Bucks won that fourth quarter by 2. I think both teams made mistakes. I think both teams made really special plays late. The stars stepped up. Guys, made shots that were incredibly tough to make. Loose balls kind of went both ways. Maybe you'd say the Bucks got more of them, although Chris Paul did have that slap-down steal. But with all of that said, I kind of zoom out and think if that first half is not Milwaukee by 7, then the Suns probably are in a much better place. Even if it's tied at the half, with the way the Suns played in the second half, I would expect them to have won the game. Let's talk a little bit more about this matchup, though. Why is it that the Suns struggle? No Giannis, no Kevin Durant, and yet here the Suns were still not able to beat the Bucks, still needing 40 minutes out of Chris Paul, 38 minutes out of Devin Booker to even lose by 3 and even have a chance in this game. I'll talk about all of that and why this is so stressful for the Suns, why they can't get it over the top against this team next. First, today's show, guys, brought to you by PrizePicks. You know the deal. PrizePicks came in. They fixed daily fantasy sports. We've all played daily fantasy sports. We've probably all lost at daily fantasy sports, and PrizePicks decided, hey, instead of making people devote a bunch of time, energy, and dollars into a game that they don't love, let's make a game they do love. And what did they do? They made one. Here's how it works. 2 to 6 players in your lineup, in your entry, and all you're doing is picking if they'll go more or less than their PrizePicks player projection, and you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So it's, again, not competing against other people, no pool, no league, no head-to-head. It's just you versus those projections, and they offer them for any sport you love. Basketball, both the men's and women's, college and pro, as well as crazy sports, disc golf, cricket, esports, NASCAR, whatever you love, they're going to have projections for, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, making it very easy to play, safe and fast withdrawals, and currently operational in over 30 states, including Arizona, as well as over in Canada. Download the PrizePicks app now or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play this awesome daily fantasy sports game. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That means if you deposit $100, PrizePicks doubles that, matches it, puts it right back in your account, another $100 for you. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up to take advantage of this offer of an instant deposit match up to $100. We talked about the late game situation. We talked about why the Suns couldn't get the job done, what they set themselves up poorly with in that first half. Let's talk about the takeaway of the game, which is the Bucks being a difficult matchup, all right? And there's no better place to start, and I'm sure I'm triggering the PTSD that you might all have when I say the rebounding battle is the place to start. Now, overall, the Suns did have 55 rebounds compared to 45 for the Bucks, but a lot of that was swayed by the offensive glass. The Suns got 19 offensive rebounds. There were a lot of moments where they were putting back their own shots and things like that. The Bucks had 11 offensive rebounds, and when you're just comparing apples to apples, you got to say, even if you have a lot of offensive rebounds, you should not be allowing a lot on the other end, and 11 is just too many. The Bucks missed 49 shots. The Suns only got 36 defensive rebounds. All right, so that was 13 total shots that were up for grabs. The Bucks got 11 offensive rebounds. Maybe a couple of them went out of bounds as well. I would imagine one of them being that free throw that went off of Terrence Ross at the very end of that game and went to the Bucks' possession. So that's one, rebounding size. What's interesting, though, is you look at the team stats, and points in the paint was heavily favoring the Suns, 46-36. I thought the Suns got some pretty good minutes out of Jock Landale. I think DeAndre Ayton obviously played well, although not all of his points came in the paint. He had, a lot of mid-range success tonight. But you had Brook Lopez on the other end with 22 of his own, only 2 threes, so he was getting the ball inside quite a bit. Jrue Holiday was driving to the basket, too much success. So that was basically a draw. I mean, the Suns were ahead in that category. Free throws you look at, basically tied. So you say, okay, what about the matchup was really that bad? I think that there is something to be said for the ability to come back like they did. Yes, Joe Ingles and Jay Crowder were on the floor. Ingles has been around all season. He's been playing for at least a month now. So I don't think of him as being totally new. Crowder was really just standing in the corner, although he was playing some defense. Wasn't doing much, he was getting blown by a lot of the time. So yes, Crowder was out there, but it's really those main guys, Holiday, Middleton, Lopez. Portis wasn't out there in crunch time. And I think that institutional knowledge really matters, especially when you look at something like how the Bucks were able to contest and challenge and create turnovers in the pick and roll, because I just said Jay Crowder was getting blown by in this game, whether it was Chris Paul in the third quarter he was guarding or Devin Booker late. Booker was getting into the paint. But when you have a moment like when Booker did get swiped and did get the ball stolen from him, it's that chemistry between Holiday and Lopez defensively is really important. The timing of it, exactly. There was a moment where they know exactly where the other one is going to be, to finish my sentence. But there was this moment where Booker was able to dump it off to Ayton. I want to say early in the fourth quarter, there were multiple possessions in a row where pretty much leading right up to that 5-minute mark, where Booker was just coaxing Lopez out and then dumping the pass right away. And there was the last one that happened, where Lopez stepped way too far up to contest basically what would have been a mid-range jumper by Booker, which is not really how you normally see Lopez play. He wants to just drop very deep. They're happy to give up that mid-range shot. You could tell with the clock winding down and Booker being so excellent at that shot that they kind of second-guessed themselves. And Lopez stepped up. The ball was put right to Ayton, and he scored. And you could see Lopez tap himself, right? My bad. From that point on, it did not happen again, and they were able to really contain Holiday with that incredible play on when he did get the steal from Booker to just get his left arm kind of in the middle, where normally, players would be too worried to do that. They're going to be coaxed into a foul. They're going to have some sort of mistake is going to happen. Most likely that foul, but also, you're allowing yourself to get behind the play. Holiday got beaten, quote unquote, by Booker, and it didn't end up mattering because he recovered. He got his hand where it needed to be, and he slapped the ball up right as Booker was gathering. Part of why he can do that, though, is because Lopez is right there. And those two, it doesn't even need to be spoken. I don't even know if it's a communication thing. It just feels like it's just all those years of practice. This is year 3 of those guys together, and you can tell, right? And so I think there's some of that. Not to say that Booker, Paul, and Ayton aren't also in year 3 and don't also have a certain level of chemistry, but it's different. I mean, Holiday and Lopez are both better than any defender the Suns have, I would say. And there's really something to be said for that. I think too, like, physicality doesn't necessarily need to show up in the box score for me to say that it's there. You know, why it's such a bad matchup being the size and physicality difference. The Suns had a couple more fouls than the Bucks did. You know, you had a guy like Terrence Ross getting sort of worked a little bit. You had, Torrey Craig he has 6 offensive rebounds, but he's 1 of 7. You know, you just look at some of these individual players too, on top of the stats stuff, on top of the chemistry stuff. You just know when you play the Bucks, you can feel that difference. And I think that the Suns faced that a little bit, and I think that's why they end up on the wrong side of a lot of this stuff. Now, again, I want to close this part of the matchup breakdown by just saying a lot will be different in the Bucks' favor with Giannis in a future potential matchup, as well as in a Suns future matchup with Durant, right? Like, I don't even have the time to break down what this matchup might look like if both of those guys had played. I think you would have had Ayton guarding Giannis. You would have had Durant against Lopez. You would have been up and down pretty different. Now, does that mean Jrue Holiday doesn't still go off? Does that mean that some of the things I just broke down don't still happen? Probably not. Like, the Bucks are still going to be a tough matchup, and there is going to be a lot of similarities still. Durant is a lot of things, but I don't think you're bringing Durant in to be the most physical, brooding, hit you in your mouth type of team. It's going to make the Suns tons better, which we know, but this is still going to be a difficult matchup. I just want to say it's going to also be a very different one. So I don't want to overstate all these X's and O's for how things look today, because there were those 2 glaring absences. Let's dive into how the rotation is looking right now and some other box score oddities and maybe a new recap show segment that I want to test out. I'll see if it feels right. Let's do that in one quick second. First, today's show, guys, brought to you as well by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want a ton of fat and calories, you've got to try a Built Bar. We're here in 2023, making our way through the year, and maybe it's a resolution, maybe it's just a mindset change, whatever it might be. Built can help you accomplish and achieve your healthy eating goals. With Built, healthy is actually tasty, and they're so delicious you won't even realize how good they are for you. What makes the Built Bar so good? Well, first, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, and second, the inside, unbelievable flavors, whether that's churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, or more of the fruity side like cherry or strawberry or orange. I'm not sure how they do it, but each and every one tastes exactly like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. You're not going to get more than 150 calories in a Built Bar. You're not really ever going to get more than 5 grams of sugar, but always with 15 to 20 grams of protein. And now, if that sounds good to you, which I'm sure it does, you don't even have to wait for shipping for your new Built Bar box. We've been telling you about Built.com for a long time, but you can also check them out at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. The 4-bar box at Walmart, the 13-bar jumbo box at Sam's Club. If you live in the Valley, there's no shortage of either one of those around you. Just head down there today, try them out. Or, of course, the old-fashioned way, go to Built.com, get the favorites you've been ordering for years. Either way, delicious. Either way, healthy. Built Bar. All right, rounding things out with some thoughts overall, big picture on this game. The recap segments we normally do. Let's start with the bench mob vibe check, which is how we look at the rotation, how we look at the minutes, how we look at the roles, and everything else. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. So I didn't do a show after the Thunder game because Durant obviously didn't end up coming back, so there wasn't a lot to break down. But between that game and this game, Monty has gone to a 10-man rotation, which is pretty much what he told us he would do, but it's a little bit surprising. So I want to break down sort of what that looks like. They're staggering Chris Paul and Devin Booker right now. They got some good stuff out of that. They have been getting some good stuff out of that. You saw Chris Paul in the third quarter do some work while Booker was out. You saw Booker in that fourth quarter stretch, like I was talking about with Ayton, although I think Paul might have been in because he played 40 minutes. So I wonder if he played the whole second half. But beyond that, obviously Okogie and Craig have been the other 2 starters. Jock Landale has earned this backup center spot. I told you that was my guess. We did our predictions last week or the week before with Brandon Duenas. He'll be back tomorrow, by the way. And I told you it would be Landale, and I feel good about that right now. 7 points, 8 rebounds today. He had 4 offensive rebounds. He made a pick and pop 3 in this game, got to the free throw line against some of the mismatches that he was set up against when the Bucks either switched or just got out of position. That's all he's going to need to do. He only played 12 minutes. Ayton played 35. You're going to see that minute split throughout the rest of the regular season potentially and into the playoffs. You're not asking for 20 minutes of Jock Landale. You're asking for 12. Can you keep out of foul trouble? Can you do your job? Can you do, 2 6-minute stints in each half and be effective? And the answer has been yes so far. Ish Wainwright, who we have not talked about, getting his full contract. I, again, got that one. I told you, Will Barton or any of these guards, none of those guys really made any sense for the Suns over just elevating Wainwright. And he is getting a ton of minutes off the bench still. I have to wonder, I'll do this in a second, if he will just continue to do that even with Durant. I want to tell you who I think will kind of lose out on their spot with Durant in a second. It feels like it should be him, but it's very hard to argue with the results, which is that Monty really seems to trust him after 2 full years of playing. Last interesting thing here is Cameron Payne has been, he was pretty good in Friday against the Thunder, less so tonight. I think he has, I think this is another example, honestly, of why the Bucks are a bad matchup. It's just hard for Payne to find a way to impact the game. The Bucks are just big. Outside of Javon Carter, who only played 24 minutes in this game, their backup point guard basically is Joe Ingles. And, Jrue Holiday is big. Grayson Allen is a 2 guard. He's big. He plays physically. He might, we could have your opinion on what that, whether physical is exactly the right word, but we know what Grayson Allen is, right? Pat Connaughton's big, on and on and on down the line. I think that's part of why you saw Payne get played off the floor in the finals. And that's why you only had the 8 minutes tonight. He was also not doing himself any favors by going 1 of 7 with no assists in his 8 minutes. All right, one more actually on this rotation, which is that Damian Lee has had a ton of games. You wonder if he was just playing way more minutes early in the season than he's used to, and this is just some fatigue that he's working through. There were games when he wasn't in the rotation prior to the Durant trade, prior to the trade deadline and All-Star break. And ever since the break, in these 3 games, you just haven't seen him have a big 3-point shooting night. And tonight, 13 minutes, no threes attempted. Now, overall, the Suns only attempted 24 threes. It was a weird game, very ISO heavy, very pick and roll heavy. That's what the Bucks do to you. But Lee just not having any attempts is not going to be sustainable. If they can't find out a way to get him open threes and he's not able to take and make a lot of them, his value in this rotation goes away, which brings us to the point I was going to make, which is Kevin Durant will play in the next Suns game. We can assume that's been the date that everyone from Shams Charania to Brian Windhorst to John Gamadoro have all had, right? That's a lot of minutes coming in. Maybe Durant will be a little bit restricted when he first comes in, but you have 18 minutes from Ish Wainwright, 33 from Okogie, 27 from Craig, 17 from Ross. I think those are the places you're pulling minutes from. We already have seen TJ Warren get kind of forced out of the rotation, right? So I think the easy thing is to more just say you're pulling from all of those places, but you also have to look at the fact that somebody's probably coming out because you're not going to play 11 guys. Monty has told us that. So we'll talk about this more with Brandon, I think, tomorrow, but my guess is that Lee will probably be the guy to leave the rotation completely based on how everybody's playing right now. I think he is playing the worst of this 10-man unit. I think he's doing the least to impact the game, and he's small, right, too. So if you can do that and keep your size, I think you try to lean that direction. So I would say Lee out, and then Wainwright, Craig, both maybe having their minutes, close to cut in half. So maybe you're about 10 for Wainwright, 15 for Craig, and that gives you, where am I at? That's like 35 minutes that I just created, and there's Durant for you. That's where I think things stand right now. All right, let's go to box score oddity, which is just an opportunity tonight, at least, for me to talk about the free throw shooting by the Suns. Yes, there was the miss on the first of 3 by Booker after getting fouled by Ingles, and that's not good. But you go up and down. Booker ended up missing 4, but I mentioned Landale getting to the line. He missed 2. Josh Okogie missed 2. I don't want to overreact, but I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Durant is an excellent free throw shooter. You would imagine Terrence Ross, when he gets to the line, will be able to make his free throws. But from last year, Bridges, Johnson, and Crowder out of the rotation and new guys coming in, I think that might be a place where you take a hit, right? If these guys end up, if you're in the bonus and one of these guys ends up getting fouled, or, somebody takes a shot and just, Okogie, Craig, those are guys that you would expect to take free throws, Landale, and you're taking a little bit of a hit in the free throw shooting department. That's just something to keep an eye on. Last thing here, well, let's keep it because I don't have a great one for today. The new recap show segment is going to be the irresponsible guessing game, and it's going to be an opportunity for me to just unspool some things that I might regret. I'm not going to go crazy and, insult people, but it's just, I want to start to build that into the show because it's an opportunity to let loose a little bit more. I just don't have an awesome one for today. I was workshopping some as I was getting set up and I couldn't come up with anything. So I'll tease it there. I will absolutely have one for you against the Charlotte Hornets. Lord knows that team is going to provide some laughter and jokes on Wednesday night. Durant returning against one of the worst teams in the NBA is weird. I'll say that. We get the Hawks and then the Mavs after that, so there will be some actual games to test this for. Not my segment. The Durant era is more what I mean on the testing part. But I will have that segment for you. I will have an irresponsible guessing game for you. But that'll wrap us up for today. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Sunday, on this Monday, whenever you're listening. Hit follow or subscribe if it's your first time listening to the show. Get this show in your feed every single Monday through Friday to get locked in, caught up on your favorite team. In the meantime, go make Locked On NBA your second listen today. Hear what's going on around the whole entire NBA, not just here in Phoenix. That show also available on all podcast platforms, and I will catch you all tomorrow.